Billionaire pushed Black CEO's wife into the pool at Gala. Then he canceled their $1 billion deal. The Gala at the Grand Meridian Hotel was supposed to be the event of the year, an evening of champagne, diamonds, and billion-dollar handshakes. The press called it the Night of Titans, where America's wealthiest gathered to show off success. Under the golden chandeliers and flickering candlelight, Victor Langford, one of the most powerful billionaires in the country, walked in with his usual smirk, a man who believed he owned the world. Tonight, Victor was celebrating a massive merger. His company, Langford Industries, was about to close a $1 billion deal with Harris Tech, a rising tech empire founded by Michael Harris, a self-made Black CEO who had built his company from nothing but grit and genius. Michael arrived hand-in-hand with his wife, Alicia Harris. She wore a simple, elegant white gown, classy, confident, and graceful. Her presence turned heads not because of extravagance, but because she carried herself with quiet strength. When they walked into the hall, murmurs followed them. Some admired them. Others whispered. Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. "Michael Harris," he greeted, shaking his hand firmly. "Glad you could make it. And this must be your wife?" "Yes, Victor," Michael said, smiling. "Alicia, this is Victor Langford." Victor's smile barely touched his eyes. "Charmed," he said, but his gaze lingered too long, too arrogantly. "You two make quite the picture." Alicia nodded politely, but something in Victor's tone unsettled her. He had that look, one that measured people by power, not worth. The evening went on with laughter, deals, and endless wine. A string quartet played as servers glided through with trays of caviar. By the poolside, people mingled under fairy lights. Michael was deep in conversation with investors when Victor approached Alicia. "So," Victor said, swirling his drink, "your husband tells me you used to be a teacher before he struck it rich." "Yes," she said calmly. "Still volunteer at the community center," Victor smirked. "That's cute. You must feel lucky to be standing among real powerhouses now." Alicia's eyes hardened slightly. "I don't measure people by their bank accounts, Mr. Langford." Victor chuckled, his voice dripping with condescension. "Of course you don't. But money does make the world spin, doesn't it?" "Only for those afraid to stop and feel it," she said, smiling faintly before turning away. He wasn't used to that kind of answer. It pricked his pride. Moments later, the crowd gathered by the pool for photos. Laughter echoed. Someone suggested a toast. Victor raised his glass, pretending to be gracious. "To new beginnings," he said loudly, "and to learning one's place in the world." Then, in a sudden, shocking gesture, he reached toward Alicia as she walked past him and pushed her into the pool. Gasps erupted. The music stopped. Alicia surfaced, drenched, her hair and gown clinging to her skin. Her breath hitched in disbelief as people stared. Some chuckled awkwardly. Others looked away. Michael's eyes widened. "What the hell, Victor?" Victor laughed, raising his glass again. "Relax, Harris. Just a little joke. Don't be so uptight." But no one laughed. Not really. The silence after his chuckle was deafening. Alicia climbed out, trembling, her dignity holding stronger than her voice. "I think I've had enough fun for one night," she said softly, her tone steady despite her tears. Michael took off his jacket, wrapping it around her. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just looked at Victor, eyes dark, calm, and cutting. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." Victor smirked. "Come on, don't overreact. The deal's tomorrow morning. Let's not ruin business over emotions." But Michael only said, "You'll hear from my team." Then he took Alicia's hand and walked out, dripping water across marble floors, leaving behind the laughter of cowards. The next morning, reporters buzzed about the incident. Victor laughed it off, convinced Michael wouldn't walk away from a billion-dollar contract. "He needs this deal more than I do," he told his assistant. By noon, he was proven wrong. Harris Tech publicly announced that the deal with Langford Industries was canceled. In a statement, Michael said simply, "No partnership built on disrespect can lead to success." The story went viral. The clip of Alicia falling into the pool, captured on a guest's phone, spread across social media, sparking outrage nationwide. Victor's laughter turned to silence. His PR team panicked. Sponsors pulled out. Stocks dropped overnight. Days later, Victor showed up at Harris Tech headquarters, uninvited. He looked worn, pale, and shaken. Michael was in his office overlooking the city skyline when the billionaire walked in. "Michael," Victor began, "listen, I was out of line, I admit that. But this cancellation, it's costing us both billions." Michael didn't look up from his desk. "You pushed my wife into a pool in front of hundreds of people, Victor. You humiliated her. You humiliated yourself." Victor sighed heavily. "I said I'm sorry. It was a joke gone wrong." Michael stood, finally meeting his eyes. "A joke? You think dignity is a joke? You think my wife's worth is something to laugh at because she doesn't fit your world's idea of power?" Victor's mouth opened, but no words came out. Michael stepped closer. "Do you know what power really is, Victor? It's restraint. It's respect. It's knowing that your success doesn't give you the right to crush others under your ego." Victor looked down, his arrogance stripped bare. Michael continued, voice calm but firm. "My wife stood in that room full of your friends and held her head high. You may have pushed her down, but she walked out stronger than you'll ever be." Silence filled the room. Then Michael added, "Deal's off, permanently. My company won't work with anyone who doesn't understand humanity before profit." Victor turned to leave, his face tight with regret. At the door, he paused. "You'll regret this, Harris." Michael smiled faintly. "Maybe, but at least I'll respect myself." Months passed. Langford Industries began to crumble under public backlash. Major partners withdrew. Victor was forced to resign. Meanwhile, Harris Tech rose higher than ever. Investors respected Michael's moral stand. Alicia, now a board member in his company, launched a foundation for women in leadership, focused on integrity, equality, and self-worth. At a later press conference, a reporter asked Michael, "Do you think walking away from that billion-dollar deal was worth it?" Michael smiled softly, glancing at Alicia, who sat beside him with quiet pride. "Money can rebuild a company," he said. "But once you lose your respect, you lose everything." He reached for her hand. "And I didn't build my empire to lose the person who helped me believe in myself." The audience applauded. Cameras flashed. But for Michael and Alicia, it wasn't about revenge. It was about rising above humiliation with dignity intact. That night, as they drove home, Alicia looked out at the city lights and whispered, "You didn't have to do that for me." Michael smiled. "You're wrong. I had to do it for us. Because if I didn't, I'd be no different from him." Alicia leaned her head on his shoulder, the city's glow reflecting in her tears. For the first time in weeks, they both smiled. Not because they had won, but because they hadn't lost themselves. Morale. No amount of money can buy integrity. True power isn't measured by wealth or status. It's measured by how you treat others when you think no one is watching. Respect is worth more than $1 billion deal, and dignity can't be drowned.